Okay, back on the Rich Fantastical channel, continuing with our Week 12 game picks. Moving into part 2 here. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have come on of late to even the record of 5-5, playing the Indianapolis Colts. At 5-5, the game is in Indianapolis. Injuries first for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, only one listed. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is doubtful. For the Colts, Andrew Luck, the quarterback, is out. Mike Adams, the safety, questionable. Philip Dorsett, the wide receiver, out. Frank Gore, running back, probable. Jarrell Freeman, linebacker, probable. With the Colts, I believe that the Andrew Luck injury has been somewhat of a blessing in disguise. It has certainly made them focus more on getting Frank Gore the ball. He's slowing down a bit. He's now under 4 yards per carry. You would expect that for a guy his age to carry such a heavy load. But when it's in his hands, you're almost certainly not going to turn the ball over. Now, he has had some turnover problems early in the year, but usually you wouldn't expect that from Frank Gore. He's usually very good at holding on to the football. For the Buccaneers, they've been playing very well. Jameis Winston is cutting down on his turnovers. Doug Martin is having a very good year. He is almost at 5 yards per carry, and actually just over 5 yards per carry, excuse me. And Mike Evans having a very good year despite the drops that he's had. We talked about the Buccaneers when we did the season preview, how they have young talent at different positions on both sides of the ball, certainly on the defensive. Well, we're looking at their offense right here, however, because their offense has been playing very well of late. Um, I think that in this game, however, the Indianapolis Colts are going to get the win. I think Tampa Bay is flying very high, and I think a young team is going to have a bit of a letdown, especially against an experienced Colts team. The Colts need it, and I believe that, as we said before, the injury to Andrew Luck has been a blessing, and Frank Gore is going to run the ball. And I look for Jameis Winston to struggle on the road. The first time there's really heavy expectations on this team in a long time, and certainly the first time in Jameis Winston's professional career. That's why I'm picking the Indianapolis Colts to win this game, and I like it to be fairly handily for the Colts. I don't think they're going to score many points, but I don't think that Tampa Bay is going to score many points either. I'm liking this game 24-13, and Frank Gore has a big game for the Indianapolis Colts. All right, next up, the New Orleans Saints travel to Houston to play the Texans. The Saints are 4-6. Houston is 5-5. Houston certainly right in both the wild card and their division. New Orleans clinging to life in the wild card in the NFC. The injuries for the New Orleans Saints first. Keenan Lewis, the cornerback, is on injury reserve. Mark Ingram, the running back, is probable. Donnell Ellerbe, the linebacker, is out. Ramon Humbert, the linebacker, is probable. For the Texans, Kareem Jackson, the cornerback, questionable. Jonathan Joseph, cornerback, questionable. Alfred Blue, running back, probable. Chris Polk, running back, probable. Brian Hoyer, quarterback, probable. So with Brian Hoyer coming back, that's certainly going to make Houston very formidable. Not that Brian Hoyer was having any spectacular sort of season, but he's certainly an upgrade over TJ Yates. With this game, I look at the injuries, both questionable, and the cornerback position. So if one or either of them can't go for Houston, that's going to be a problem with Drew Brees, who I'm figuring is going to be stewing and looking to light teams up downfield. DeAndre Hopkins for the Texans having a very good season, as we discussed. He's really starting to come on now, and now that this team is starting to win, his numbers are looking a lot better. Houston is going to struggle to run the ball. Alfred Blue has not picked it up in Arian Foster's replacement as Arian Foster's replacement. Not that Arian Foster was lighting up either. New Orleans, Mark Ingram is rushing the ball fairly consistently, and they're going to need to continue to do that for this team to be successful in the future. But I look at this game where there may be injuries in the secondary, especially to the cornerbacks, that it could be a problem that New Orleans isn't going to be looking to run the ball, and they're going to get tempted into throwing it. We got a lot of interesting games, a lot of desperate teams. Obviously, the later you get in the season and the more teams that have a lot riding on it, the games get very interesting. I like New Orleans to win the game with the caveat of depending on whether or not Kareem Jackson or Jonathan Joseph can go. I'm expecting one of them to not play. If both go, it could swing the other way. But as of right now, I'm going to pick New Orleans because I'm looking at that injury situation. I think Drew Brees is going to want to throw the ball. So, obviously, the more the injuries to them, the higher the score will be. I'm going to pick it as of right now, 27-17. I don't think Brian Hoyer is going to be that well in his return. I think he's going to be a little rusty. And certainly if more than one of those cornerbacks is out, as we just said before, that score could go up. So New Orleans 27 17. Okay, next up, Minnesota Vikings traveling to Atlanta to play the Falcons. Vikings are 7-3 off that loss to Green Bay. Atlanta is 6-4. They are 1-4 in their last 5 games. Injuries first for the visiting Vikings. Everson Griffin, the defensive end, questionable. Teddy Bridgewater, quarterback, probable. Trey Waynes, cornerback, is out. Harrison Smith, safety, is out. For the Falcons, Devontae Freeman, the running back who's been having a very good year, is out. Leonard Hankerson, the wide receiver, is out. And Matt Bryant, the kicker, is out. Atlanta really struggling of late. Minnesota's going to look to get back on a roll after that loss to Green Bay. Atlanta needs this game more than it might seem. Despite getting off to that 5-0 start, there are a lot of teams behind them that are looking to catch up. They're barely holding on to that top wildcard spot above the Seattle Seahawks, that is. And there's a lot of teams at 5-5, a lot of teams that can get to 5-6. So if they lose, they'll only have a 1-game lead over a ton of teams, and that'll have been 5 of the last 6 games they've lost. Without Devontae Freeman, the task is going to get tougher. I look at Trey Waynes being out in the secondary for Minnesota. They do have Xavier Rhodes, who can match up against Julio Jones. That should be a good matchup. I expect Julio Jones to really play well. Norv Turner, it doesn't appear that he's really going to let Teddy Bridgewater loose at all during this regular season. He's going to rely heavily on Adrian Peterson. Atlanta's run defense is certainly a bit suspect. Their defense in general is a bit suspect. Matt Ryan is starting to turn the ball over more, so really not looking good for the Falcons. It is their last stand time, and the Vikings are off a loss. It's a very difficult game to pick. I really want to pick the Falcons because I think they're going to be desperate. However, I just can't do it in my right mind, but I won't be surprised if they do win. I'm liking Minnesota in a late win, 27-23. But again, Atlanta may come out very, very desperate and come away with this win. We'll have to see how that goes. All right, next, the St. Louis Rams are going to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. The Rams are really starting to come back to earth. They just don't have any consistent quarterback play. The Bengals off of 2 straight losses are 8-2. Rams at 4-6. Injuries for the Rams all questionable. Case Keenum, quarterback. Robert Quinn, defensive end. Tremaine Johnson, cornerback, and Greg Zuerlein, the place kicker. For the Bengals, Darqueze Dennard is on injury reserve. Adam Jones, the cornerback, is questionable. Dennard is a cornerback as well. Marvin Jones, wide receiver, probable. Andy Dalton, wide receiver, probable. I'm not sure who's going to get the start. I would expect it to be Case Keenum, though. Case Keenum, if he is able to go. Again, he's questionable, so he may be hurt. They may just start Foles anyway. I don't think it matters. The quarterback play has been terrible for the St. Louis Rams. Todd Gurley's been the one bright spot. Expect him to get a bulk of the carries, or a bulk of the work on the offense, that is, because of the poor quarterback play. However, going against that Cincinnati defensive front, it's going to really put the hands in either Foles or Keenum, and it really doesn't matter. And when that happens, bad things are going to happen for the St. Louis Rams. Cincinnati off 2 straight losses. They're going to look to get right back into it. I'm expecting big things from them in this game. I think Andy Dalton is going to attack, go downfield to A.J. Green. The St. Louis Rams do have Janoris Jenkins, so that'll be an interesting matchup with him and A.J. Green. I expect A.J. Green to get the better of it. Adam Jones, if he can't play in the secondary, that could be a problem. We saw it was a bit of a problem last week for the Bengals when they played the Arizona Cardinals. However, I don't see much that's going to happen from these St. Louis quarterbacks to make a difference in that regard. So it should be an easy win for the Bengals. I like it to be 34-23. The Rams may put up some points late, but I think I'm being pretty generous with 33. All right, so that's it for the second part of Week 12, the game picks. And the last part will be up shortly, so we'll do that in just a little bit. Thank you so much.